Axel is a seasoned and award-winning marketing pro. He is a global and multilingual technology executive with startup and large cap experience for companies achieving accelerated growth targets, category leadership, and successful exits, such as Merrill Corporation, DataSite, Colt, TomTom, and Intralinks. Axel has been in the cloud space since 2000, the subscription economy since 2003, vertical SaaS since 2006, and tackling product-led growth since 2017. His background is in B2B SaaS, and he has a great command of all marketing disciplines. Over the past 7 years, he has mentored dozens of mentees, especially in the RegTech and FinTech sectors. He is fluent in multiple languages and has a deep empathy for operating in different cultural settings. So this is a podcast about heroes, which is why you're here. Thank you, Axel, for being with us today.
That is a high standard to be called a hero. I haven't done anything yet.
Nope, I've seen your LinkedIn profile. I got your number, man. All right.
Thanks,
Yes, my pleasure. My pleasure. So tell us, how do you start your day?
Yeah, I'm usually a fairly quick riser from sort of bed to desk. I remember about a year ago, for my new team, we went through this exercise of like, what do you do first thing in the morning? And I was like, well, I go for the dog walk for half an hour. I go running. I do this. I was like, look, all I'm doing is just bed, coffee, check out what's going on at work. I don't, after that, I take a little bit of a break in terms of doing my stretching and a couple of other things. But I'm fairly quick to just get the day going. I've always been one to just wake up and go. I don't even need an alarm clock, believe it or not. I sort of have a natural internal body mechanism that just allows me to figure out, hey, 7 o'clock yet? Yes, okay, go. So usually fairly quick to just get going. And then perhaps the first thing that I do is just organize my day, my thoughts, what do I need to achieve? And I do that using a tool called Notion, a little task list, checking in terms of my calendar. Who do I meet? When am I going to meet them? And do I have a story? Do I have an ask? Review, is it needed? Is it not needed? But that's kind of how I organize myself. And then I take a bit of a break, do the personal stuff at home as well before the morning rush hour begins, so to speak.
Got it.
That's great.
Great.
That's one thing I've always been jealous of, is that morning person. I am
Same.
slow to rise. Yeah. I'll stay up late, I'll work late, but getting up in the morning is a skill. This is, of course, a podcast about heroes. And as you know from all the Marvel movies, every hero has their origin story. Could you tell us your origin story?
Absolutely. So personal characteristics, grew up in Belgium, German national, lived in UK, Netherlands, Mexico, and now in the US. Speak a few languages as a consequence of all that. And I kind of feel like I sort of stumbled into my career. I spent some time thinking through, what am I good at? What am I not interested in? And I went through some formal exercises with not psychologists, but whatever you call these people who sort of give you assessments and tests and what have you, to really just think through, what am I into? And one of the things I realized after college, I wanted to go to learn Spanish. So I went to Mexico. And I quickly got tired of not doing a great deal. I actually did want to be productive. So I started to look for work, and I found a job. Kind of strange in the sort of place where I was living at. There was this German guy who spoke English but no Spanish. He was into the internet. He was trying to set up an ISP, internet service provider. And I spoke German and English and Spanish. My Spanish at that point I felt it was good enough. So we kind of, even though my internet knowledge was a little bit limited, but I felt like there was a good overlap of let's just work together. So as much as it wasn't the co-founder, but I think there's some credibility in being employee number one. There were other sort of founders in that. And that was kind of my journey into this technology, marketing, and commercialization thing. And again, I was young at that point, and great to live in a single life in Mexico and sort of having to set up these points of presence everywhere. I was traveling every 2-3 weeks, going to one of the many nice beach places in Mexico. And this was prior to the Narcos days of Mexico. Okay, so as much as Mexico now has some issues here and there, but I never really ran into any major of these issues. And that's kind of was my entry point into that technology space, marketing space. did events, did a lot of sales enablement, did some selling as well in terms of company representation. And I felt like this is a good home for me.
That's great. Thank you for that.
Sorry, I got wrapped up in the story and forgot my next question. So we love to talk about problems. So big, hairy problems, because we're talking with folks who are up to big things. Are there any evergreen problems, or when we're talking with our clients, oftentimes, it's what's working, what's not working, time to results, bandwidth, could be something specific to the product space. Can you share something that you've either dealt with and wrestled to the ground and have some good ideas about what to do there, or something that you're dealing with currently that you can share about?
Yeah, maybe a bit of context. I just joined a new company, an employer, Guidewire insurance software, or software for the insurance, I should say. And thank you. And as part of that, a VP product marketing, I'm sort of in a position to reevaluate a little bit the skill set that we have. And the team's gone doing their work without sort of concrete leadership for 10, 12 months. And so they've kind of lost a little bit their purpose, their focus. Other departments and areas have, grabbed onto sort of responsibility areas. And I now find myself in this position where I have to do multiple things, give the team purpose again, lift them up individually as a team, get some wins on the board. New starter always needs to make sure that they're well received and seen as well. So getting those wins out there as well. And then sort of medium term, I do need to describe what success looks like. I have a little bit of liberty to describe. I'm not, being told what success looks like, which is nice, and start shaping that. And I have a good idea in terms of what I'd like to do. And I think part of, because you asked what other clients and how they think about it, is I think success is something that you actively pick. One thing that I'm sort of embracing more and more on the strategy side, for example, is that it is important to say, here's what I'm going to do, but you also need to be aware of the consequences of the implications of, therefore, I'm not going to do something else. And I think as part of that, my philosophy is also, you have to pick your successes. There's probably 3-4 things to pick and choose from, all of which have pros and cons and minuses and what have you. There's some areas that you have to avoid, but it's an active choice. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And, if I extend on to that again, it's finding a good balance between what I'm concerned about is finding the balance of what I have on my team, feminine, masculine energy. Men and women are different, but there's also a lot of overlap. I sort of think about more in terms of the energy zones of, that nurturing that a woman can give to a team environment, that drive that sometimes a man can give to a team environment. And both of those, by the way, are present in men and women. It's about finding the balance. So that's something I'm thinking about in terms of, opportunity to expand and grow the team, a balance between youth and experience. So I love young people, the innocence of trying, of failing. Trying also means at some point you can have success coming out of it. And I'm more interested in the learning. And ultimately, it's my role as a manager is to sort of manage the risk impact of that failure, but really the balance of youth and experience. And then also, let's face it, you still need, technical knowledge, hard skills. So can you write? Can you analyze? Can you crunch numbers? These things that are needed as well. On the one hand, on the other hand, the soft skills. Can you present at an executive level? Am I comfortable to do a podcast? These type of things, which obviously need to be nurtured and grown over time. So that's kind of what I keeps me up at night, what I worry about, and also given that I'm new, it's something that's sort of top of mind for me.
That's great. Yeah. So being that you've been in this industry for quite a while and starting in Mexico in the early days, how do you think that product marketing has changed over the course of your career?
Great question. When I started, the word product marketing didn't exist. And I think in my case, I've actually done all of the core aspects of product marketing, demand generation, marketing operations, product marketing, awareness type of marketing, brand, PR, etc. But when it comes to product marketing has become more and more defined over the last 5 to 10 years. And, you grab from areas left and right, like competitive intelligence, market intelligence, pricing, content marketing, etc. And I think what's changed is one, technology. So, what you can do nowadays with voice of customer research, insight analysis, all of the sort of tools for doing pricing research, value understanding, willingness to pay, that didn't exist, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I still remember when I started off literally going at conferences and events filling out handwritten surveys, asking people, what do you make of this? What do you make of that? So that afterwards you come up with some kind of a, semi-structured research of what your insight was. That is now all automated. There's fantastic tools out there that can just, whatever you want to do, it's just available. The other element, which to my surprise is product marketing specifically now, is really two things: positioning, messaging. I mean, you will not believe how many CEOs I speak, CMOs keep asking about this positioning, messaging. And I'm like, how difficult can it be? And the reason it's difficult is because before you have something, no research being done. It's just, hey, I heard this and I like to implement it, and off you go. B, you don't test. So there's no testing that goes on in terms of, what do the clients say? So not internal opinions, but what is basic of market research. Listen to what people are talking about, not your sales rep. Yes, that's a vehicle to get hold of customer input, market input, but be out there in the market, actually talk to prospective buyers. I'm a big believer in prospective buyers and your actual buyers to get a sense for what you should be doing. And then the other thing is just stick to something, don't rip it out 6 to 12 months just because there's new head of sales that comes along, the CEO comes and goes. So those, and hence positioning, messaging is like, oh my God, how many times over can you do this? There's so many frameworks out there. They're all different, but how many times can you keep doing this? And there's almost like an entire generation of product marketers. All they do, positioning, messaging.
Yeah.
Bumpy head syndrome, yeah.
So do you have a secret recipe for where you fit into the organization? And I'm thinking of a very specific question. Like, you've got the product team, of course, and you've got the sales team, of course, and then you've got kind of the campaign planning side. But it seems to me that almost every position and message would have to go through your team. But it's not a linear path, right? You don't always go in order. The true marketing teams have to figure out how to get a message out. And so they're talking to sales, but they're also talking to you. Do you have a framework in mind for an organizational design that you think works really well or that you've helped to design?
Look, ultimately, part of your question here is it's a collaborative effort. Product marketing in many ways is orchestrating those opinions and views and tries to quantify them, bring them up to a point, moving towards an empirical standard. But every organization is different. Sometimes the product side of the house has much more opinions. Sometimes the sales house. I'm fortunate enough that my CEO cares a lot about positioning and messaging. So my team has spent some time about figuring out stuff and talking, and then he comes in and is like, nope, then something else. And as much as it could be frustrating, but I find it very helpful. I strongly believe ultimately, I've never been a CEO, but I'm going to put something on the CEO job description, which is it's the CEO's prerogative what messaging is going to be. And really quite often marketing does it, but it's the other way around. It's the CEO who needs to have a consistent message, employees, shareholders, customers, the market at large. And yes, marketing can help, can sort of drive, can substitute, but strong believer in alignment with the CEO, very helpful on that front. And then currently I report into the product organization, so a bit more of that product centricity, which is fine. I've worked in marketing organizations, worked in product organization. I'm not really too worried about where exactly it sits. I am concerned, one of my sort of driving recipes, is it aligned? Like, do we understand the pros and the cons? Have we talked about the pros and the cons? Have people expressed their perspective? Have we tested it? And that's kind of more my approach to developing good messaging. Okay. I have frameworks as well, right? So exercise I always like to do is, what are you good at? What are you better at? What are you unique at? So good is kind of basically table stakes. If you are in a certain industry, you got to be doing these things, so you better be good at it. Then what are you better at is, the interpretation of how you do things. You need to have a visibility of your competitors. You don't just operate in the absence. There's a market. How do you do things better than the person to the left and to the right? But what you really market is, what are you unique at? What is nobody else doing? That is your differentiator. And, you sort of have a list of 10 things are table stakes, 2-3 things we are better at, and one thing is what you're unique at. If you're unique at 10 things, you don't have a business. And that's kind of the essence of marketing. You then, your messaging is then aimed at that one thing that you're really unique at. And then that's something I try to instill also in my team when, the messaging comes back and that sort of very neutral language, like, look, who's this for? What does it do? What differentiation? Let's go into the details. So yeah, it's kind of another asterisk behind me.
That's great.
Fantastic. I can see why you're doing podcasts, Axel. You're slaying this. I'm hitting that little marker button like crazy for things we'll tear off to put on LinkedIn. Great. Love it. All right. So you mentioned what keeps you up at night. You mentioned a bit earlier that getting your team back and all rowing in the same direction and clear about what it is you're out to succeed at and what you're going to leave by the wayside for right now. And if the team is balanced and you have everything that you need to be successful at what you've chosen to be successful at in the organization, that's situational for where you are now. Totally get it. As a marketer, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that's exploded, and we started off talking about, hey, what's changing? One of the things that has absolutely changed for the entire marketing industry, ChatGPT. And really generative AI, I've been personally experimenting with, even re-downloaded again, Bing. Like, who the heck knows about Bing anymore? Like, Bing doesn't even exist. There was another browser called Brave, which sort of is helpful for crypto stuff. I played with that for like 2-3 years. And then this Bing thing comes on again. But, it's integrated with Bard and sort of different way to do search and how you sort of find information. But I've recently, again, gone back to ChatGPT just because it does a few things differently. Marketing as an industry is really going through two fundamental revolutions. One, cookies are dying. And we've all gotten used to sort of that, measurement via websites visits, and then you've got intelligent cookies. You can sort of put it back to your customer audience. That is all going to get much more difficult in future and present. Maybe you have 100% understanding of who's going to your website. It's going to go down to 70 to 50 and you'd be operating with sort of 20, 30% of knowing who's who and what's what. So, and then from there, got to open up your, the notion of gated, ungated. I think we're going to have to rethink all that again in the context of cookies. Anyway, so that's one big area. And then the other big area is really just what can you actually do with all of these AI tools? And the awkward balance is, yes, helpful to quickly come up with ideas, but really bad for actual copy. I'll give you an example. I was actually on a call earlier on today with my CEO. We're playing around with it with a few bits and pieces. And I used ChatGPT for writing an HTML page, using him as, we're just playing around. And hey, write me an HTML code for Mike Rosenbaum, CEO, Guidewire, just to see what would happen. And it spit out a whole bunch of things, nice code. But then in the text tag, it actually said, he joined the company in 2003. That was wrong. That was wrong. He was still at Salesforce back then. And I didn't actually spot it because I don't know him that well. Okay, let's face it, throwing out nice names, your CEO and what have you. But it was really, he spotted it to say, hey, this is not really quite right. Or someone else spotted it. But either way, we realized that, there's a degree of checking that you need to do. But so it's finding that balance between using these tools to really accelerate forward into a direction that is going to be, more efficient, faster to market, speed to market on the one hand. On the other hand, not risking marketers' nightmare of bad press and all of this challenge that comes with it. I'm not sure you've been following it, but for example, Samsung, they don't allow usage of ChatGPT anymore. Interesting where that's going to be heading. Currently, I'm leaning more to the side of definitely use it, but with caution, and hence, also sort of new skills that I need to learn as well, which is always fun. If you keep doing the same thing, you drive yourself nuts. I'm spending time learning that.
I love that. Can I ask a couple follow-up questions about that? I think it's such an important and timely topic. And as we talk to our guests, a lot of people have brought up AI. I know at my company, we talk a lot about AI. And what I'm hearing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that AI, ChatGPT, these are good tools, but they are not standalones. They are not silver bullets. And so tell me if that's not what you're saying, but that really resonates with me. And so correct me if that's not accurate, but then my question becomes, it feels like a trendy topic that everybody feels like they need to talk about right now, customer facing. We talked about blockchain for a while. We talked about crypto for a while. Right now it's AI and ChatGPT. Do the customers care? Do they know what it means? Are they equating it to customer benefit statements? So you've got this tool, but then you've also got the customers. And I'm really curious to know how you connect that all.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. In general, in the tech space in particular, jargon, it doesn't mean anything, right? And FUD, which one is it really? But put it this way, once every 10, 15 years, there comes a technology around that you need to have an answer for, you need to have a play for. And a couple of years ago, that was sort of, I thought what it was good was, it was It was cloud, analytics, social, and something else. And yeah, you needed to have an answer for it. And at this point, everybody's on cloud, everybody's doing some kind of social. It's kind of sort of taking care of itself. I do feel the big questions now for certainly for the executive teams or board level, they need to have a position vis-a-vis generative AI, because it can severely disrupt your existing business. There's some companies who are already stating in the learning space, I think Chegg, it was Chegg, whose stock price crashed by 50% because the CEO made a reasonably innocent statement to say, this thing is really disrupting our business, and next day stock price, boom, 50%. And this is like 10,000 employees, so this isn't exactly a small company. So you do need to have a perspective. Now, the extent to which it affects sort of the end consumer, I think that's still some way off. Do I know whether my insurance company is sending me a letter of informing me of my new policy that a human typed out on a machine, let's face it, on a machine, or is it done by a bot? I have no idea. So it is that balance between seeking greater efficiencies and, from a messaging perspective, again, that's cool what we're talking about here. Yeah, B2B, you sort of have to talk about it somewhere. A lot of companies you might have noticed, they just replace their .com with .ai because it's helpful for recognition of a company. But I'm leading, I'm more in the field of this stuff is revolutionary. And we keep talking about sort of, ChatGPT, the text-based version. I'm also playing around with some of the images, some of the video making, some of the PowerPoint automation. And my God, that stuff is wild what you can do. Yeah, tons of risks. I'm still, don't ask me about risk. I'm still not quite there yet. I'm just experimenting a little bit. I'm aware, don't give away my proprietary secrets into the bot. At that point, it becomes theirs. But, when you see some of the imagery coming back and sort of having bobbling heads with a different, your voice, but on a different head, it's frightening what some of these stuff can do. But right here, right now, I'm a very much living in the present type of a person. This is incredible stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
Totally. Was there another follow-up, Danny, or are you good?
Nope, that was it.
Okay,
take it away.
Great. Awesome. Axel, what advice do you have for future marketers or the next gen?
Great question. I think any podcast that leads towards sort of educating others, let's talk about the next generation. We talked about AI. I think any new person coming into the workforce or any young learner need to be absolutely embracing this stuff, sort of the notion of becoming a prompt engineer. I think there's an entire generation that sort of is really comfortable with TikToking around, which is great. But I think that stuff is almost like the modern past. What is modern future is AI. You have to become a prompt engineer, and engineering word might be too fancy. It's almost like, I was reading this article the other day where, a STEM. I'm sorry, but all these bots can replace a lot of that STEM capabilities. And what is a critical skill set now is really the ability to communicate, to express, to relate. Because a lot of that stuff is being automated by these machines. But you do have to have that baseline of becoming an AI expert. On the softer side, I also think, part of the technological advances that are possible, it is about being curious. This is sort of more at an intersocial level that I've noticed a lack of sort of relative curiosity of asking, not the first question, but the follow-up question. Because we are hung up on the first response, or that polarity that has creeped into society of you're this or you're that. And if you are this, you get labeled, and then there's no follow-up question. What is really interesting is to deep dive into, okay, great. So you like politician X. I'm going to say a name here, but you like politician X. Why? What is interesting about their perspective, as opposed to just sort of sticking to the point of, oh, you like them because you sort of like their policies. And it's more finding out that second question, that sort of innate research that's going missing, because we just get everything consumed via internet browsing and ChatGPTing. And then finally, I also think the problem with all this technology, buying stuff online, I've noticed it for a while, is that nobody engages in the real world anymore. And we're beginning to lose these sort of normal communication skills, the handshake, the comfortable of there are still shops around. And I mean, it's unfortunate that so many shops are dying, but there's still a real world out there. I'd encourage, especially younger generation, not just to stick to the sort of comfort of the phone, but also to go out, to meet people, to have that. And from my perspective, it's especially to have that experience on not always being right, not always being perfect, and that sort of eating humble pie once in a while, which is really useful to grow as a person and as a human being.
That's great. I've been reminded repeatedly over the last couple of months that knowing is one of the lowest states of being.
Love that.
That's interesting.
Love that.
Yeah.
Knowing is one of the lowest states of being. Yeah, I mean, it's true. You know, there's other things that matter.
Curiosity, wonder, question, it's so much better. Actually, I was just at CEX, Creator Economy Expo. You brought up TikTok, and that's one of the great things about those outlier, tangential for what we do on a day-to-day basis, potentially. You get to feel stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be
right.
out of your space. It's fantastic.
I think there's nothing more important than feeling stupid and hiring people that are willing to feel stupid, and hiring people that are smarter than you, and people that are curious and adaptable and all that kind of stuff.
I think a big theme is just not just at work, but also in personal life. It's okay to be vulnerable. And you know, I'm mentoring a lady, and it's something that she's sort of naturally a little bit more of an introvert, a bit closed. And she was asking what's sort of the next thing for me to do in terms of having that growth. Allow yourself, you know, to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to ask a question. Allow yourself to not being the smartest person in the room. I don't know, she said that's very insightful. No one's ever told me that before, but it's sort of so obvious that, you know, it's okay to ask a dumb question. I think it's also important to try to be mindful not to ask 15 dumb questions so that, you know, you don't hide up the dumbness. But a question is really one of, I mean, especially like when you join a new company, it's happened to me as well, like all these TCAs, the acronyms that you have no idea what they mean. It's okay to ask, hold on, what does this mean? Because it's a value add, and it sort of helps people also to take a step back and reflect on, are we expressing things correctly? You know, sometimes in content messaging, when you just stick to these sort of funny terms that no one knows, but it's not very inclusive, the language. It's not, you know, in how you express yourself, you need to bring audiences in. You don't need to push them out.
There was a marketing campaign years ago with the Jeep car company. And the slogan was, it's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. And I thought, that's probably really cool for current Jeep owners, but if you're going after net you just excluded everybody else who's never owned a Jeep. I really struggled with that one.
Yeah,
that exclusive language.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, look, it's you know, there's a famous Bud Light ad running out there right now, and you know, it's sort of a similar thing, right? Is it including new people? Is it excluding previous people? And I think it's really tricky to find that balance. But this is something that organizations need to work on. Get your targeting right, get your segmentation right, to know who you're after. And yes, you can micro target nowadays. I mean, this is talking about AI. Yeah, you can get the bots to write all this stuff per segment exactly. That's maybe one of the good uses. But yeah, it's something that marketers need to think about, like who exactly are you going after? Can you have the same message to, you know, men, women? Should you separate it? Is there an age difference? How you speak towards things? Yeah, and these are challenges over the next couple of months and years.
All right, I really like this question. We've gotten a slate of different answers. Question is, if you could go back, is there anything that you would do differently? If so, what is it?
Yeah, it's in general, as a person, I'm a bit more in the present. I try. It's nice hindsight, you know, oh, if I had known this, I would have done it differently. But I don't let my mistakes, and yes, I have made mistakes, eat me up alive. But as I'm sort of thinking about the topic, I think there's sort of a couple of things that I've been thinking about over the past, and you know, vis-a-vis work. When I was in between just when I started my MBA, I sort of set a goal to myself. I want to do this MBA thing, and I left a really good job at the time. Cool company, had a team. It was sort of first time managing a larger team, and I kind of made a mistake then to do the MBA. Then I could have easily waited a year, maybe not even 2 years, to get a greater depth of experience behind me. So that's something that I think about. I don't know what it wouldn't necessarily have changed my career, but the learning I would have gotten from that would have been, really quite powerful. And on the other scale, and I'm also a believer in, unfortunately nowadays loyalty is dead. You got to be disloyal to your employer. Which actually, let me say that differently. No, you got to be loyal to your employer, but you should avoid sticking around with an employer for too long. When there's one VP role, two senior directors, over time only one of them is going to get the job. And if you're interested in that next step, well, guess what? You're going to have to leave. And so, if you think you have the skill set and so forth. And in my case, there was, one particular role, which was a dead end role that I'm not going to name the employer, which I shouldn't have stuck around for that long in the hope of something will change and people will go, opportunities will come. I was stuck with a manager that was useless. The work was not fulfilling. I went through sort of personal angst, why am I doing this? And I should have just kicked the can sooner. So those are, relatively speaking, sort of two things where I sort of, in hindsight, wish things would have gone a bit differently. But that's part of the question, right? In order to know what you would have done differently, you had to have gone through the experience. So would I change it? No. It's life is a journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the steps, moving forward, moving around. So that's kind of my philosophy.
Got it. Great. Is there a burning topic or something that you really feel strongly about that you'd like to talk about today, Axel? Anything?
It's something that I've kind of mentioned already. Over the last sort of couple of year or so, 12 months or so, I've really gotten copy and messaging. I've really gotten to sort of think about much more. In B2B in particular, quite often what really bothers me is that complete emptiness of statements like, we provide solutions to your problems, and you have a color logo name next to it. Like, what the heck does this mean? It's which solution, which problem, for whom? And I think any copy, and it's not about the copy, it's about a clarity of what do you do, name the category. I mean, if you do dental floss, we are dental floss. Some company offering dental floss. Who do you do it for? We do dental floss for children. That's fantastic. I don't know who does it. And then, the third thing is, how are you different? The difference keeps coming back to it. So I don't know. I haven't thought about how dental floss for kids could be different, but we do dental floss for kids with the little gummy bears at the end of it. I don't know. But name the difference. Name. And instead, what do you get? We provide solutions for kids' problems. With whom? What? And this is something that drives me absolutely nuts. And I see it especially in B2B, where you have these absolutely meaningless slogans that put out there, with LinkedIn and Twitter, where you can buy certain audiences, and you just assume, oh yeah, we bought I'm insurance now, so we bought the insurance tech audience, but that's great for you, but it doesn't say anything on the ad. It's for insurance tech, so I wouldn't know. All I see is solutions to problems, but you don't say who, you don't say what. And this is where, pet peeve of mine, something that I think is getting lost in the art of copy, targeting, segmentation is getting lost in that sort of hyper automation environment, in the hyper personalization space. And, back to the risk of AI, right? In terms of, does it work? Does it have any meaning? But passionate about copy, what copy can do to express a point of view, to get something across. I've seen some really good copy. Also that dryness of B2B copy, like, who reads this? Who speaks like this? That there's still humans on the other side who want to be entertained and, enticed to your stuff. It's human. It's still one-on-one. And sometimes it's, that we and us, like, that doesn't mean anything. It's you, expressing your language for you. So that's something else, that's sort of part of that wider copy art has gotten lost over the last couple of years.
I love that connection back to the customer. I mean, a company listing the specifications and features is not listing customer benefits or what those specifications and features do for you. I think that's really, really good topic. Yeah.
I'm actually a strong believer in not even talking about your product, but really the idea is as you sort of, expose what you do is, yes, you have a solution to a problem. So the solution is the product, whatever it is that you do. But really the marketing needs to be focused on the problem. If you understand the problem which the customer has, then the solution will become obvious. And so big believer in, just spending a lot of your content, a lot of your ideas on exposing what the problem in the industry is, what the problem in the space is, as opposed to focusing on describing the solution and talking about your product. I mean, obviously this is more applicable to companies that work in an established category versus sort of newer ones. But either way, focus, educate about the problem, and then the solution will become obvious.
That's great.
Perfecto.
All right, Leslie, should we go for the speed round here to close it down?
I think so.
I know that we're technically at time, but Axel, have you got another 4 minutes?
I do, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks. So if your career is a movie, Axel, who plays you?
Oh my goodness. I have never been particularly good at name your favorite song, name your favorite book, name your favorite movie. So let me briefly think about this one. I am quite often I like movies with a contrast of hero and victim. And believe it or not, actually, I'm a little bit in tune with the victim. I know you want to talk about the heroes. Actually, we'll bring this nicely together. Heroes, but I actually like movies that have a strong victim character, because it's about a hero doesn't exist without a victim. Back again to this problem solution element. Someone needs help. It's okay to be helped, but telling the story of the problem, I find fascinating. So, oh gosh, you asked me for a specific one now. I'm sorry, I have to punt. I have to, you got to give me these questions beforehand.
No,
well, these are supposed to stump you a little bit.
Round.
It's not for the speed round. I love it.
Right, no
but
worries.
You're not the only one to go, I don't know. Okay, what's your favorite KPI?
And I'm gonna throw the answer in for you, Axel. I'm gonna say Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh Hugh Jackman. No, for sure. Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
Obviously.
He has because Hugh Jackman and sort of the Saberwolf and those things. Yeah, he is the hero, but is also the anti-hero. That's a very good one. Thank you, Leslie. I'll quote Hugh Jackman going forward.
Well done.
KPIs. I mean, look, in what I do in sort of right now the field of product marketing, I'd love to talk about revenue and click-through rates and all sorts of other stuff, but I don't own that. Yes, I can report on it. It makes sense for product marketers to report on how their product is performing. But there's two things in product marketing that you do own that nobody else owns, and that's content produced, not to be confused with being content manufacturer, and content consumed. Who is looking at your content? And especially, sales and sort of passing on to sales and sellers. And it speaks more towards the quality dynamic. One of the guys on my team, he recently asked me, hey, why do we have to get rid of it? Like, well, look, no one's looked at it in a year, so it's not useful to them. In other words, it's useless. So, let's just get rid of it. And that's okay. That's okay. It's part of failing. But then when it comes to, to businesses in general, it's sort of that combination between revenue and profit. I mean, what else do you do, right? If revenue is revenue, that's income. That's what we live on. Sorry, I'm pragmatist here. Would love to talk to you about, ARR growth over net, blah, blah, blah. Revenue, period, end of.
Yeah, gotta keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Gotta keep the lights on. Hopefully grow, be happy. So, yeah.
Yeah. First job, worst job.
First job, worst job. I love my first proper job. My part-time jobs, it was more like, when I worked at various bars and Burger King, I was like, I got to make some money. And this, I know this is going to be my future. I think along the way, what makes a job fun is just a good manager, good team spirit. And one of those sort of miserable experiences that the likes of Burger King was, I just had a shitty boss.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Get that. What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, or I am reading, where is it? It's actually kind of went through this. It's going to be very dry, but the name is great.
Oh,
loved. It's a book by a lady called Martina Lauchengo. It's kind of the best book for product marketing that's out there. Very comprehensive, easy read. She's part of a partner at Silicon Valley Product Group. There isn't a lot of great product marketing material out there, so you can read stuff on how to launch a product and how to do user research, but something that brings it together is not that much out there. And then on a personal level, I've been more into podcasts lately. So I'm listening a lot of these podcasts. You asked me like what I do to wake up. One of my things is quite often I listen to sort of entrepreneurial podcasts because I find it absolutely fascinating. The motivation, drive, dynamism of an entrepreneur. Whenever I'm downcast and a bit, and days go like so, I listen to these like entrepreneur thing and keep grinding it, keep sort of ideating. I just find that it gives me motivation. It sort of is inspiring to me.
That's great.
Who's the most fascinating contact on your phone?
Gosh, you're asking questions. Fascinating contact. I've always been drawn to people who have very unique, distinct perspectives. I'll call it Kevin Owens. He is a friend of mine, triathlete as well, and he's done a whole bunch of different things. He swam from Gibraltar to Africa, believe it or not. A couple of Ironmans, qualified for the World Championship at some point. But what really makes him interesting is he's just a character. He's not afraid of expressing his opinion. He has an opinion. I mean, that's step one. You got to have a perspective. He's not afraid of expressing it. Sometimes a little bit edgy, but he gives and he takes. And it's sort of, when you ask the question, he kind of sprang to mind.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Are
Should we
you
do
a
one more?
triathlete also? I see the treadmill behind you. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, so I do triathlons as well, bit of running. But I had some foot issues, so my last proper race was actually the Berlin Marathon in 2020 or 21. What are we now? 23? Yeah, 21. But I've been nursing some foot issues, so unfortunately it's been a bit of a challenge. Yeah, pandemic investment. Split the office in half, get a treadmill going. Behind behind that wall, there's also other equipment that I use. But love doing sports, swimming. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go for a swim here once we're done.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, if you miss it, you can always do the aqua bikes.
I try to do real swimming of, sort of breaststroke and freestyle. It just makes me feel good. It's relaxing.
But you wear the aqua bikes in the tri community? They take the running out. And they have them that are just the bike and the swim.
Yeah, right. I could do aqua bikes. Yeah. No, but my foot problem is actually also a little painful when I push down on the pedal.
Shoot. Okay.
So it's not as I hear you, but no, I tried, and then you find it painful again, and you stop, and so like, it's been a bit of a mental challenge, to be honest, also for the last 12 months or so.
I'm sure.
No worries. Danny, you want to get one more in?
Yeah, I've got a couple of super fast ones here, but let's start with.
Okay.
Is there something that you've always dreamed of doing but haven't yet done?
Again, pragmatist, live in the present, not really the kind to say I need to go. Actually, I have done a lot of things. You might be surprised. One of the crazier things I probably would have done is I used to do sky surfing many years ago. You could jump out of a plane, you put a board underneath your feet, and you.
Oh my gosh!
I've always been, and it's because of that, it's like I choose to do certain things. If I want to learn another language, I just learn the language. I am actually on Duolingo right now learning Arabic.
Oh, wow.
Trying to pronounce words that I can't really read. But yeah, it's been a year and a half now. So
that's incredible.
I just try to get on with it.
Great. What's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
The best compliment, I think, one of the things it's not the direct words that people give you, but it's kind of nice when you're being quoted in a context. And again, I'm so bad at coming up with things on the spot, but the sort of spirit of the question is really when people sort of in public repeat what you would have told them, quote or unquote, I don't really care. But when they use the words that sort of you would have given them or explanation, I find it very, very humbling.
All right. Last one. Describe yourself in 5 words.
Energetic, creative, happy, intriguing, and international, global, international.
That's great. This is so fun.
Fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. This was great.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. Leslie and Danny, thanks for, I know it's effort on your end as well to pull this together, the setup and blah, blah, blah. So thank you for, spending time with the community and, getting to know people. I really am grateful for the work that you do.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you're enjoying these conversations, we would so appreciate if you would subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us to increase the podcast's reach. Thank you. See you next week with more inspiring stories. This episode of Marketing Heroes is brought to you by The Search Guru, produced by Circle Audio, and podcast cover art by Andra Lazord.